Hi.
Good evening.
Okay.
All right. So we've got some homework to check, right?
Yes.
And we'll do some practice probably today as well. How was it? Was it difficult?
Mm, I was only able to finish the speaking and writing. I couldn't do the listening and reading yet. I will do it in the weekend.
Okay. Too much. Too much free time. Yeah. I mean, too much homework and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
All
But
right.
yeah.
That is the best way to learn. I mean, to practice speaking. Listening and reading because there are some tips, and I have a book. I have actually two books that we can also study for reading and listening separately, and we can discuss things. But since we have so little time and limited lessons, we would rather spend that daily speaking and writing, yeah? So, yeah, I'd like to see those to make sure you succeed in your test. I need to see you are doing reading and listening so I can report it to the manager who reports it to your parents because we want to see progress, right?
Mm.
And honestly, most people just do it like every day. Like if you have less than 30 days left before the test, or I would say even 60 days, you could do it almost every day, or at least a couple every week, yeah, on your own. And whenever you do them, you just share them with me, and at least I see that you're progressing. By sharing, I mean just the final score. Where are you at? 6, 7, 5? What do you think? When was the last time you took the listening test, for example, in this online IELTS test?
Mm, I don't remember the listening one, but I think that my reading was 6.5.
Okay, that will also help you with speaking, at least a little bit, and writing too. All right, what would you like to start with?
Mm, writing?
Hmm. So, some a diagram, right? So, how much time did you spend like writing all of this? Yeah.
Mm, oh no. I didn't watch the time, but I don't think I spent too much time. I suppose
That
I
is
forgot to set
too
the
that,
timer.
that is too vague, right? Like, all right, let me add it here. I don't forget to time yourself strictly. Yeah, the point is you need to know where you stand, where you're at when it comes to timing. Yeah. Well, okay. So you think maybe it took you like at least 30 minutes then, yeah? About 30, maybe 35 on average, yeah? Next time, please time, and you can tell me when you can, at the end of the, you know what people do? At the end of their task one writing, task two as well, they like write down, right? So like you're finished with writing, you're finished with checking, and you write down like something like this. It took me 18 minutes, 34 seconds to finish, and like I don't want to check it anymore. I think I'm done, so I am done, yeah? Yeah, that's what you do. You can write it here, you time yourself, you write it, the number indicating the time, and that's it. All right, let's see. The word count. What do we have? 151. That is perfect, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Pie charts compare ways of accessing music chemistry. Oh. So, illustrate residence in two countries. Mm-hmm. Canada, Australia. Reach out for news by many means. Okay. Reach out for news. Hmm. Yeah. On the whole, the trends in both countries are quite alike, besides some small differences. Yeah. Well, what's the online is yellow, yeah? Hmm. Well, I feel like online and print aren't really like small differences. What do you think?
Hmm.
Like
Probably.
definitely not specified as a small difference. TV is, but depends, on what you
Hmm.
consider small, I guess. Like even 3%, if we're talking about,
Maybe several differences, not
right, like
small.
you can imagine people in the whole country of Canada and people in the whole country of Australia, 3%, it could be like, millions of people. So might not be that of a small difference even. Yeah. I would say maybe like 1, 2, maybe, all right, 3% is like a bit of a stretch, but okay, small difference. But the rest, I see pretty big differences here in terms of the online and print news. All right. Okay. What else? So yeah, if the differences are truly, or like were truly small here, there wouldn't be the point. There wouldn't be any need for this, pretty much, because you are supposed to find those differences and compare. And if there aren't many, well, they are not going to give you any task like that. Yeah. Okay. So I like the intro according to the structure. So you paraphrased it quite well. And seems all right here. And the second sentence is the overview. That's good. So no problems here. I like the structure. At first glance, so all of this is unnecessary, right? It doesn't count as word count, so it gets deducted from your word count. You shouldn't do this, yeah? So just say people in Australia have the higher tendency to get
Higher tendency. Um.
the higher tendency. Actually, let me check this. Higher tendency. Overall I like it, but seems a little bit uncommon. Only 3 results on the web. Mm,
Hmm.
people have the higher tendency to get involved. Well, it's still possible, so it's fine. Have the higher tendency to get information online, since half of the people, not half though. So okay, in obviously in the first paragraph you don't have any data. But in the body paragraphs, you have to add data. And if you are inaccurate, that will be deducted. Because, so it's over half, right? You need to add that here, the percentage. Maybe in the brackets, parentheses. Understand what I mean? Are you looking for something?
No,
Looking up?
I'm not sure.
What are you not sure about?
Like the mm, dating, because I thought that if I say that over half, then
You have to imagine the person who's reading this can't see the pie charts. Yeah?
oh,
So, like you have to imagine that. Like that's how the examiner grades you. So the examiner that reads your response. So here you have to indicate 52% somehow. Like you can say, okay, over half, a little bit, tiny bit over half of all the people do that, which is, well at 52%, somehow you need to add that, right? Okay. Hmm. Normally we say have a high, yeah, have a higher tendency to get information, uh, information online, since over half people do that. Okay. On the other hand, in Canada, the number is just merely above 1/3 of the population. The number what?
The number, like the proportion of the
What number?
number of people.
Getting information online.
Oh yeah,
So it's a little bit
and
unclear, right?
exponentially.
You might want
Mhm.
to paraphrase this, get information online, and add it to that, on the other hand, the number. It's sort of clear because you said the, but not 100%, and it's better to avoid any vagueness here. So just merely above, not sure about merely. So you definitely never add, well, you know this, but you don't add emotion or judgment, yeah?
Um,
Well, merely is, I guess it's more of a, just like a fact, I guess, closer to a fact than an opinion, but still, it merely is kind of on the edge there. So is just merely above, is just above 1/3 of the population. If we're talking about online, yeah, so that's a bit unclear. And again, numbers are missing. You need to add them. Yeah, yeah. What else? In this nation, you can combine this into one sentence. Can you try? Show me your skills.
well, on the other hand, in Canada, the number of people getting information online is just above one third of the population, with 36%.
Yeah, with 36. And actually, you said merely above. So what is 1/3 of 100?
33.33333.
Well, yeah, but and here we have 3% above that. That's not just merely. Just merely would be 34. Yeah. So first of all, inaccurate wording and no numbers. So you didn't achieve the task, as you see. And it's so simple. You just missed that number. You see, and that's why people come to me to help them with IELTS. Because even though you're smart and you know English, you might make mistakes that you don't realize you're making, right? So, okay. Um, all right, sorry, continue. I mean, like, let's finish combining this.
The number is just above one third of the population, of 36%, while televisions are slightly more favored than the other way around. With yeah, go on. Does that sound right?
Well, that's much better, of course. Longer sentences net you what? A higher band or more points. Longer sentences. Because you get the chance to use structures like while and whatever else you can think of, yeah? I see the potential, so do that. The longer sentence. All right, so, and like in
Can you
this,
name?
well, yeah, let me comment on that then here. Just combine into one. What else? Not televisions. What is that? What is
I'm sorry.
televisions? What's televisions? That's not a word.
Oh, um,
So televisions is what I don't know what you're talking about. So you mean like people watching TV? What was it like TV news, television
yeah.
news? We're talking about news, by the way. You said get
Mm.
information, which is a bit different from news and accessing the news, right? We're specifically talking about the news. Get information is like Googling how to cook potatoes. Is that news? Not necessarily, right? Another blunder, a little bit of a blunder, I would say, right? Not news.
Because I didn't know how to paraphrase the word news.
Then don't. You
Don't
can't
like just
move
because it was
away. So, okay,
teaching.
you have some words in the diagram and in the rubric, yeah? And you're really like supposed to paraphrase the first sentence, paraphrase that into the first sentence. But later it's okay to use that like specific instances of those words. It's more or less okay. Like, well, we can take a look. News, right? We've got thesaurus here. How can we paraphrase? We have the latest information. That's a bit different than just information. Yeah? What else? That's the main one. Well, the account of the events. Genuine information, yes, but again, that's like not exactly here. Intelligence, not really. Word, maybe. Well, announcement, a little bit closer, yes, I like that. Not much else, really.
Mm.
Broad, broadcast, that's okay. Headlines, definitely, that's always related to the news. Um, right, so then we can check also with Merriam-Webster. So, as report of recent events, right? You could just say that they get reports of their recent events. Perfect. Yeah. So that's
Mm.
what you're supposed to do after you're done, timing yourself and writing. So you like leave it there and then you switch to like a different color. And then you fix things in a different color so you can see what you've done, what you have like researched. Yeah, you've got a lot of this. I can link it to you in Zalo just so you have it. Yeah.
Okay. And
Merriam-Webster is great, of course, and thesaurus. I've got a bunch of dictionaries, but for now, I think this is enough for you. What else? Are slightly. So yeah, that's part of that. Slightly more favored, right? So TV news is slightly more favored than the other way around, right? So this one is, oh, what do you mean the other way around?
I think I was mentioning like the online way to access it. That
I don't get it.
I
Again, please. Just explain. I don't understand.
I think I was like mentioning the online, like getting the information online, but it wasn't clear.
Okay, I see. You mean you're comparing TV news to online news here, the other one around. So yeah, don't write that, please. You have to be specific. It's okay to repeat, or at least indicate. All right, the other way around. Well, and explain like add that online news to the same phrase somehow. Like just indicate both. If you really want to say the other way around, which is not the best. Okay, but I have something to ask you. Can we use phrasal verbs in writing in IELTS?
No, I think
You think no?
I think
How
mm,
about idioms?
idioms and speaking is probably acceptable.
We're talking about writing, yeah?
Oh, writing, no.
Right, so both of these are not acceptable in writing. Task 1 and task 2, ideally not. Yeah?
Hmm.
It's not something that you will really lose points for normally, but just try to avoid that. So the other way around doesn't really work well here. Okay, more favorite than and then with what's another way to say like with 40%?
At 40%.
At, yes, with, at, any other way?
Hmm.
So TV news is more favored at 40%, more favorite at 40% or with 40%, yeah? Any other way?
I can't think of
Okay,
any.
it's fine. Then approximately, uh, see if something's missing.
Hmm. Which is approximately equal to.
Which is approximately equal to. So the Australians is also we have news on TV are equal to the Australians. What are you equating here? You're equating news on TV in Canada to Australians, or to like what is going on?
Oh, um, to the tendency of the
Well, yeah,
Australians.
that's better tendency, even though you repeat that, well, you might think of another way. So the reason why I'm not fixing everything is because I want you to do it again later. Yeah?
Hmm.
Just rewrite it.
However,
Huh?
to the Australians' preference. Mm,
There are many ways to say that. You can think of that. Yeah, think a bit about it because you will not have a time limit anymore. Just rewrite it later at home on your own, and yeah. To Australians' tendency, which is well, which is at percent equal to the at the very least maybe like an apostrophe here, kind of like would have been
mhm.
okay maybe. The Australians, the Australians like 37 maybe like this, but well yeah you can think
Mm.
about that. um, just make sure that that's not always the same, like with number at number in every sentence. Okay, so overall, of course, this is not like too bad, but well, this specific sentence is, yeah, that's kind of atrocious, but the rest is kind of alright for so far. Well, to the contrary, uh, what are we? Contrary to what? Well, what are you talking about?
I think that uh, I was trying to like compare the bigger numbers to the smaller number, like
Mhm.
the least favorite trend.
Well, then it doesn't really like you haven't said that. It's in your mind, right? Like you're saying that.
Mm.
But you should say it here. Then, speaking of the big numbers, this, and then speaking of the smaller numbers, this. That makes
Mm.
sense. Because again, like just contrary to what exactly here to TV and internet, or 7% in Canada, people in Canada go for, it's a phrasal verb, yes, so ideally,
Mm.
like change that for what the radios again, like, well, no such thing as televisions and radios. We're talking about media, so radio, it's radio here, right? So go for the radio as their choice of accent news. Okay, go for the radio. Okay. Mhm. just vaccine news, while only 2% of the surveyed subjects. Okay. I just compare with. Well, I'm not sure about subjects here of. I guess you could keep it, but it's a bit weird. It's a little bit weird. Yeah, you might think of a way to paraphrase. If you can't keep it here, I'll see. I'll think about it again later. So, in Australia, do go for. While only 2% of Australians do well the same, then yeah, do the same. Okay, the same, and we have double the same then. Oh yeah, I don't really like this. The same thing goes for just as for yeah, as for printed pieces of news. Let's check that. Make sure it's relevant. Not too relevant, none results, but still possible, right? Let's see. So the printed news, only printed pieces of news. Oh, okay, yeah. So printed piece of news. When the preference of this way. So as for the printed pieces of news, the preference uh, reference of, does it sound right? You sure? Preference, we usually say, for, yeah. So, preference, I don't really see of here. Do you? A little bit uncommon.
No.
So for normally, yeah, preference for this way. Yeah, let's paraphrase that. Okay, it's understandable but not great. Is 2 times higher in Canada than in the other words. Obviously, missing a word here. Okay, and again, numbers are missing here, right? Because we have two. That is what was it even? 7. Okay, so that's for printed news. It's very confusing because you're not adding numbers, right? So you need to add numbers. The percent. Okay, well that's it, I guess. So far, this is closer to a 5 than a 6 because of the mistakes. But this is your, like, first writing, so it's pretty good overall, I think. You can. Okay, so what we do is you try to understand it and then you rewrite it without looking. The point is to like memorize the problems. Don't memorize, like, like they say, like in speaking or writing, whatever, like sentences, but memorize the mistakes, memorize what went wrong. And then without looking, write again and show me that next time. Or just send it to me, yeah? Okay. So now then, what else? Task. Yeah, okay. We could also add this to a. You can add the date as well, and then we'll move it. What questions do you have, by the way?
About this.
I cannot really. Yeah, about this.
Mm, how do I like uh, use other words than with this percent or that or a percent? Like, how do I change it?
Well, it depends on the whole sentence structure. Like, just think about how you write that. and see for yourself. I honestly I can't answer like just broadly because it depends on the specific situation, on a specific sentence and what you're saying. Overall, it's not a big deal. You could just keep it like that. I was asking to see like how you think. If it confuses you, just keep it like that, right? With, at the end, that's fine because it's a report. It's not a creative kind of writing. You're not really supposed to paraphrase everything. Just paraphrase the key things that are easy, that are obvious, obvious, like repetition, like have a tendency, have a tendency. If you use it twice in two sentences that are next to each other, that's not great. That's all I'm talking about, right? So if you avoid that, that's pretty good. And yeah, well, don't know how to paraphrase news, just repeat it. And then review later, add like in purple or red. Okay, so I found that you could say the report or something or this and this. Just show me that you've studied that a little bit. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, look into synonyms after you finish writing. Okay. I keep this here. Don't forget to like this is what you need to study though before, like when you open in task 1, you start the timer, you look at these structures. Yeah, follow them, please. But it should be part of the training. Okay, part of the timer as well, part of the timing. No, task 2, right?
Oh,
Well, we have task two here as well. You haven't done that kind of writing yet, yeah?
yeah.
So here, this is for your reference. I put it on top, and the rest is below. You can write, the date or whatever. And next time, well, all right. Next time, just do task 2 then. Yeah. Task 2. Well, let me show you since last time we didn't have the chance. Right? We didn't. Yeah, we didn't. So here we've got. Hmm. Okay, this one is good. It's from the what was it? The February, I think, test. Yeah. Well, you don't really need much here. I mean, you don't need much else to begin.
Hmm.
Just follow the structure. So you analyze the question and write the intro first before what?
Analyze and write intro before planning.
Good. So you analyze and you write the intro paragraph, which is how many sentences? Same as task 1.
Two.
You can see it here. It's the same.
Two.
Paraphrase the statement, and instead of the overview, well, obviously you do the thesis statement, the main opinion. Yeah.
Yes.
If you okay, so planning is very important. If you don't do planning before writing the body paragraphs, you usually fail. That's the number one reason most uh, would-be writers in Vietnam fail. They just don't plan a lot. They don't plan at all, actually, not even like much. There's just no planning, right? Do you plan when you write before writing essays
Yes,
normally?
I write an outline.
Well, that means, yeah, same thing, right? So not like you plan for the body paragraphs, and then yeah, you leave about 5 minutes at the end to check. Well, we have the paraphrase. Can you try?
In series, some might prefer to, some might mm, like to living alone rather than Instead of in a crowded family, in a crowded group of family.
Try again one more time.
In urban cities, in some extrovert countries, people tend to live
Several is
alone
not good.
rather
Several
than.
means selected, usually, like select countries. Um, Many is not several. Can't paraphrase like that. But okay, that's in task 2, it doesn't have to be accurate. So actually, like for that is okay. It's not task 1 where you have to be specific. But still, well, many is not several, right? In the majority of countries, in most countries, right, a bit closer, but fine, yeah, fine, right. Sorry, I interrupted again, please.
In urban cities, in multiple countries, um, people tend to live alone instead of living group in a crowded group of family.
Crowded group of family?
Hmm. In a crowded family, okay, only.
Crowded family. Would you consider your family crowded?
No.
Crowded family. Hmm.
Hmm.
Sounds so strange to me.
Hmm.
Populous family. Let's see.
Populist.
Haven't really heard of crowded family. It feels like an incompatible
Oh,
kind
oh.
of concept to me. Still help crowded family. Hmm. Hmm. I can't find anything good here. If you think, crowded family. Hmm. Well, I guess yeah. This is a pretty good sentence here. I like it. So maybe it's fine. A little uncommon, but okay. Okay, so multiple countries doesn't work. Just people don't say that. What else? Many countries.
Hmm. In various and
Various countries in the world. Well, okay, that's better. And you don't have to repeat. Like in many countries today, you can paraphrase like word for word, like just replace words, or you can just remove it and think of a concept. Like think of the concept. What is it trying to say? Right? Many countries, like across the whole world. Yes, that's what it means. So you can replace the idea, like not just the words, but think bigger, yeah? When you're paraphrasing, that's for task 2. For task 1, you don't really need to, but here, big cities, we have, let's see, what,
metropolis.
metropolis? Actually, metropolis, plural, I think that is metropolises, yeah? Metropoli. Metropolises is fine, yeah? Uh, So metropolises, yes, you can say that. Large important cities, that's big cities for you. Good paraphrase there. Well, pretty much everything you can paraphrase, every part. Live alone. You repeated that.
Yes, I did.
Well, another version.
Live independently.
Great. That's what people do these days. They change things like negative alone into positive independently, right? That's you see it in the news all the time, right? These days. So even though it's like a negative thing, you might phrase it in a positive way, yeah. So or live a lonely lifestyle, right? Things like that.
Hmm.
Small family units, larger extended family groups. Yes, they are like inviting you to show your language, your understanding of the English language. If you copy the words, you don't know. If you can paraphrase them, that's the best. That's band 9. Yes? The better you paraphrase, not just the words, the structures, the ideas. Perfect. So that's the time where you're supposed to like show off. Yeah? The first sentence of task 1, task 2. The examiner instantly sees that. If they see it written well, it gets easier. All right. Well, that's it. And then you have what after that?
His statement, like personal opinion.
Yeah, do you see there? There's an example, right?
Yes.
Like I strongly agree or disagree. So you either go 100% one way or 100% the other way, or maybe 50-50. That's it. You don't have any other options. Is it a positive trend or a negative trend? Is it in like advantages, disadvantages? Also kind of similar. Mostly like don't never go like 30-70. Yeah, I a little bit agree, but mostly disagree. No, never like that. You could say I go 50-50 on this, or I fully agree. The easiest is of course just fully agree, strongly disagree, and nobody cares if you go fully in one direction. That's easier for you, and the examiner will not never lower your score just for going the easy path. But it makes it easier for you to write because you don't need to think about the other side or like complicate things. So, well, what do you think about this? Positive or negative?
Mm, I think it is a negative trend.
Mm-hmm. So
I strongly disagree with this statement.
no, like you.
This is
What statement do you disagree with?
um that people like to live independently
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Well, hmm. Well, okay, I could say that, or yeah, I find this. I strongly believe that that is a negative development, right? Things like that. So, okay, that's the for the second sentence, the thesis statement. The important thing here is what.
making the point.
Hmm. So it needs to be very, very clear, 100% clear. The majority of people they never have this clear idea at the start. This is very, very bad for your band. If you want a 7, you can even get an 8. With this structure, an easy 8 for you. If you follow this, practice this at home, so you get the second sentence it should be a very clear, on point position, very clear. If it's vague, like there are many advantages and disadvantages, and I'm not sure what, that's terrible, right? So it needs to be clear. Like I strongly agree. I firmly believe that this is. And also, when you say like this statement, that is just an example here. Like you can say this statement here too, but you should make it clear as well. Like if the statement is vague itself, like unclear, then you should write it like I strongly believe that people aren't lonely today at all, or people aren't trying to live alone. And this essay will detail why, or the reason why. The reasons why. And then you have planning. Yeah, you plan for 5 minutes. The body paragraphs. And what do we do here? Well, you go like, what is it, 100%? Yeah? One way. You choose one uh, path. And then you add 2 reasons, one per paragraph. It says there like maximum 2 reasons per paragraph, but ideally one because it's hard to develop both at the same time. It's easier to have one. Make sure that it's fully developed. Examples, knowledge, like statistics. By the way, what kind of like personal examples can you bring here on this topic?
uh, past experience.
Well, a concrete example, please. What do you think? What specific examples can you bring, like personal?
Um, Myself living alone.
Well, how would you write it? What's the sentence? Like for example, or what?
Example, for a short period of time, I have experienced living alone, living by myself, and and it felt miserable and things.
So you have lived in many countries of the world, right? Today,
Yes.
you've lived in many countries, yes?
No.
So is it a good example?
No.
So we shouldn't bring personal examples in task 2 at all, yeah? So
Mhm.
no things like me or my uncle or my friend. That is not normally accepted, not acceptable, because we're talking about, it's like part 3 questions in IELTS speaking. You're not talking about yourself. Even if the question is what like what sides do you like in your country, that's like part 3. A part 3 question could be like that, like what sides do you like, or what famous places do you like in your country, and you're not going to answer like, well, I like this square, that monument, this. You're supposed to say like, well, the tourists that come to my country, they usually go here and there, and I feel like these are great places for the people. Yeah, in a general way, you always try to like answer impersonally in part 3 and task 2. Yeah. So that's another thing. So please, no personal examples. No, that's it. Yeah, good examples would include statistics, like statistics show, or the scientists say, yeah, things like that. The recent developments have or are suggesting that this and this, right? So just general examples like that, things like that. You can see them in the news articles a lot, and yeah. And in conclusion, we actually, before conclusion, you have to understand one more thing. So what do we begin the paragraphs with in task 2?
Oh,
The body paragraphs.
um, the first reason and the second reason.
Yeah, so you start with a topic sentence, it's called, and it should be very clear. It's like the second sentence of the introduction. The first sentence of each body paragraph should be super clear, very specific reason. You introduce it in the first sentence, and then you explain it, support it with general examples, maybe add some other things to say, like your personal maybe opinion on that. Maybe, yeah, if you are lacking the word count, but normally that's enough already. And that's it. So you have a very clear statement at the start in the introduction, and then 2 clear reasons at the start of each paragraph. And then, so in conclusion, you do what?
Summarize the reasons and
Yep.
the opinion. And
The main position from the introduction, you grab it, you paraphrase it, and then you grab the 2 reasons, paraphrase them too, and then you combine them into conclusion. So it's like a soup of all of the reasons and the main position of yours, but paraphrased carefully. That's it. And you don't add any, like, very careful. Many people like to add, many students of mine used to, like, before studying with me, they like to add things such as, well, new ideas at the end, like examples that are totally out of place, or new supporting reasoning that's not the place, right? So you think that's why you plan. You might like write 10 different reasons, but choose 2, the best, the easiest to support. Yeah. And in the conclusion, nothing new, only paraphrase the existing reasons and no new examples or anything like that. Well, that's it, and that's a band 9. That's what they want to see from you in very short. Yeah?
Can I like make up these statistics?
Well, that's the point. You're supposed to. Do you know the statistics? You're supposed to. Because,
If
uh-huh.
no no.
If you're wrong, they're gonna call you later and they're gonna have an interview with you about like why you're so wrong, yeah? They're gonna
Oh,
they're gonna be very angry if you make up some statistics that don't exist, right?
oh,
Which just doesn't happen, right? I'm just joking. Like like
okay.
the point is to show your English skills here. The task is always not like, do you agree, like, is it a positive, negative trend? The task really is show me your language skills when speaking about countries, people living in big cities, and this and that, right? In a structured way. That's the point of the real test. But they're not going to say this to you here because it doesn't make sense like that. Same for part 2 or 3 in IELTS. Like, do you like fruit? Right. The point is not what you like. The point is show me your the vocabulary that you know, the sentence structures, the pronunciation when speaking about familiar topics such as fruit or food. Yeah, that's the question. That's the task. Okay. Right. That's what you will do together with rewriting this. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let me write that for you in the chat. Writing do a task 2 and rewrite the task 1. That's all. Now, for speaking. So, how long do you want to study today for?
Um,
Do we have like a
well,
2 hour lesson or?
okay. I think I can do 2 hours.
Okay, so until 9:30 then, because now we can dive into speaking properly. Unless you have more questions about this.
Mm, not for now.
All right. When was the last time you wrote a task 2 response?
Actually, this afternoon I have
Where is, where
a
is it?
test in class.
Oh, so you mean what class?
My like I'm going to school, so I have English class as a subject.
In your public school, like high school?
I go to private school.
Oh, a private school, but you have task to writing the in the class.
Yes,
Is it like an international school?
it's not, but the that school training us to have like an outcome of IELTS. Like they pretty much guarantee that the students have the outcome with an IELTS mm, result and stuff.
An IELTS result
An IELTS result.
or a good IELTS result? Because an IELTS result could be 4 or 3, you know?
Oh yes,
Like, you
a
mean
good
good one or
yeah.
how good? 5, 6, 7, 8? Do they tell you?
I think most of them target to have like a 6 or 6.5.
I'm talking about the school. What is the school target?
Yeah, 6.5. They
Mm, they promise a 6.5. Okay, interesting. And okay, you write like in a class together with other people and they time you or something?
no, we just change like through the semester, and we do all kinds of like sometimes forecasts in speaking.
You said choose the semester?
No, I say throughout the semester.
Choose. Choose what?
throughout this.
Throughout. I see. Throughout the semester, you are just doing some topics from time to time? Okay. All right.
Kind of, and we're
Well,
doing skills.
mhm. Well, we'll see how you do this, how well you do this, and follow this structure too. This is for timing yourself well. You have a timer and you follow. Okay, so 5 minutes this, 5 minutes that, 20 minutes that. Yeah, just follow this timing, and you'll do well. Well, part was it speaking something new here, right? That's a new. All right, great. So that is this. Mm-hmm. Okay. Where was it? All right, a bit too much, yeah? It can't be 2 minutes, 14 seconds. It has to be at least, well, maximum 2 minutes, right? That's it. At least 1:30 and maximum two. Ideally, yeah. At home, we should practice to do the best. Just stop yourself at two. It's fine. Now, describe something that helps you focus. Do you choose randomly or do you choose difficult topics?
I choose randomly.
Okay, that's fine. Helps you to focus on study work. Hmm. Haven't we talked about this already? No?
No,
Hmm. Okay.
we haven't.
Yeah, it was another person. Sorry about that. Just recently had another conversation about this. All right, so let's see.
Well, when I first saw the topic card, the first thing that sprang to my mind was big clock theory. It is a theory that if you set a giant clock, maybe digital or physically, in front of your face and shut all your devices, it will help you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Uh, all of you said. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's quite a lot. We need to try and separate the writing into 4 paragraphs next time, please. So yeah, that's clear.
I still forgot that.
Don't worry, it's okay. Because again, the main thing is that you're practicing, you're recording, you're listening, you're checking. That's great. That's like 90% over already. You're doing it. Well done. Just make sure to try it next time. So I've was the big clock. You mean the big clock that is the big clock theory? Okay, something new, I guess, for me. So, big clock theory. It is a theory that is if you set a theory that if you theory that what
That, um, that says that's indicate that
says.
says if you set a giant clock.
Well, that's a bit better, yeah. A connective is good to have. It is a theory that says if you or that is that is a theory that well, okay, yeah, says if you set a giant clock, maybe a digital or a physical one in front of your face and we shut down all of your devices. I think you meant that, yeah. It will help you to concentrate. You don't really need to help you. It will help you concentrate on whatever you're working on, like studying or working. Okay, like working, whatever you're working or uh, working on or studying, working on or studying. Then like this. Okay. Um, the big clock theory is said if you said so. In front of your face is literally like this though. So I don't think you mean that. Um, can you paraphrase?
Mm, um, in your vision, like
Your peripheral
in
vision, like okay. Well,
no,
you're supposed to what? Like look at it or what? Like right, literally in front. Maybe you meant like in front of you, or just like within your working area, like where you
yes,
work.
yeah, like in your surroundings.
All right, that's much better. Yeah, like in front of your face, in front of you, we would say, right? You put it in front of you and shut on, shut off, and remove all the devices, turn them off, and then, okay, so that is something. What it is. Very nice. I like this. Very unique, a very unique answer. Most people won't be able to come up with this, I think. But tell me about it. Like, how did you come up with this in 1 minute? You
I
had
don't know.
60 seconds to prepare, right? Or more.
Yeah. Oh, I only have 30 seconds. Mm,
Why 30? Oh, you mean to
because
speak, to say it, or to I mean, I'm talking about preparation, the 1 minute you get before
I
speaking.
only have 30 because I didn't remember how much time I got, so I just
Say, okay.
really thought.
60 seconds, yeah? And okay, great. So you hadn't done any research of this big clock
No,
theory.
I actually made it up this theory.
You what?
I actually made up the whole thing.
Made up. Okay, great. Very nice. That's perfect. Exactly what I teach to most of my other students. Very nice. So, all right. And since I first knew about this method, well, we just say learned, right? Since I first learned about this method, I have been using it constantly. Very nice. I like the tenses here. Uh-huh. For instance, every time I have some kind of difficult task to tackle, I would use this method as a way of controlling my inner self to concentrate. Okay. I started using this method probably a year ago because it was pretty much a trend back then. Everyone would say that, oh, it is so useful, and many more, mm, and say yeah, and many more compliments about it. Let's say, well, just you could say, and compliment it, yeah, as a verb. So say things like that, and just generally compliment it in every way to compliment you. Um, Thus, I found it really simple to follow. Hmm. A bit of a logical issue. So everyone says use useful, and that's why you found it simple because everyone said it's
Yeah.
useful. Thus, I found it. So these, how do they connect? So I liked the previous one, and also that's like a different thought, yeah, because thus means because of this. And you could say it like, and I genuinely, and well, yeah, and on top of that, or in addition to all of these phrases, I also found it simple. Or yeah, yeah. Well, in addition, it's also simple to follow. So
Started to do so.
I liked it. Yeah, so I liked it. Yeah, um, and it turned out it was well, was means like it's not anymore.
Oh, it is working.
It has been, right?
Yeah, it is.
Turned out it has been working really well um, with me, I guess,
For me,
on me
for you.
method or me. It's been working really well. for me, has been working well for me. I think that it is because it is an overwhelmingly, just a really big clock, overwhelmingly big clock, and it gives you this feeling of how time is passing by, and the fact that you haven't done anything. Well, the fact that you haven't done anything, that's like when, like exactly, when does it happen? So maybe, so this stuff is great. I like this here, but from here it's a little bit confusing. And
Mm-hmm.
if, like, at times when you find yourself procrastinating and not accomplishing anything, it reminds you of whatever else. Yeah. So this little part is a little awkward, but okay. Yeah. Um, anything feels so you start feeling guilty. Like as soon as you notice this clock, you notice yourself procrastinating. Procrastinating.
Yes.
You realize that you shouldn't be doing this, and you feel guilty, and so yeah, that is why it is useful for me with my concentration issues, problems. Yeah. Okay, very nice. Like it. That's a good answer. So we need to deliver it a little bit sooner because they will stop you at two. Like for example, where was it
It
here?
gives you this effect of feeling of how time is passing by and oh, you haven't done anything.
Passing by. Yeah. So you would be stopped here. So this wouldn't be here. But it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's good if they stop you. It means they either really like your answer or just they understand the band that they want to give you and they move on. So you don't need to say much usually.
Mm-hmm.
But if you structure it well, they are more likely to listen to the end because people like well structured stories and speeches. And if you can deliver that, more likely that the examiner is going to be like, this person is actually making sense. And I like listening to what they're saying. It sounds natural, it sounds nice. So that's what we are aiming to get here, to get from this structure. Good job. Now let's move on to actually it was it the same day? So let's move on to part three then, yeah? Haven't really done that yet. Much at least. Not much. Hmm. Last time we met, I think when was it? Alright, it doesn't really matter, I guess it's fine. So let's do this again. Let's do the so the topic, part two again. I just want you to try and finish it with that, with the four paragraphs and a good starter for each paragraph, like transition from one to the other. You only get about 2, 3 sentences per question if they're long, and that's what you should be aiming for. And now you also your answer, and let me write it here. So don't forget to separate your speech and writing into paragraphs. Yeah, do you have a question?
During the test, we don't get to know like what when the time is up, right? Like
What time?
we don't
In
get
part
to
two
see
or part one or
the
part three?
no, like we don't get to see the timer, right?
Oh yeah, no, you don't get to see it. Normally, like I know maybe you'll be able to glance over at the other half of the table.
Hmm.
Well, actually, I have something to show you. Let me see. Hmm. Okay, let me show you this. Just because you asked, it's a good question. Yeah. Have you seen this before? This particular video? Does it remind you of anything?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so here, this is an official real speaking test with a real candidate.
Good afternoon. My name is Dominic Bullock. Can you tell me your full name, please?
What did he say?
He's asking her about her full name.
What did he say?
Hello, my name is. I didn't catch that.
Name is not
Can you
important.
tell me your name?
Yeah, okay. Your what name?
Your full name?
Full name, right? So what do you say?
Um, well, my name is. Blah, blah, blah. That is simple.
You say your full name, just name. What was it? Huang Tu or something? So
Yeah.
yeah, you just say that. And anything else?
Oh,
No,
no.
right? You just say your full name, and then you say like, but you can call me Jenny or something. You no need to say that because they're not gonna use your name usually, and well, no need to make it awkward or anything. Yeah. So this is. I just want to go over this test, and let's practice answering questions that he asks. I just want to see how you can catch the questions, how you would react, because this is a real test. There are no actors here. This was released by Cambridge for the people who are who've purchased the official test.
And can you tell me where you're from?
What did he ask?
And can you tell me where you're from?
What's your answer?
Well, I am currently a citizen in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Okay.
From Brussels in Belgium.
May I see your identification, please?
So you could just say Hanoi, Vietnam, because this is not a part of the test. It doesn't matter. Like you just give him the information pure and don't need to say anything else. Hanoi, Vietnam, what else? Nothing else. Vietnam, you could just say Vietnam. That's fine too. And what did he ask just now? What has he asked?
It was lagging, so I didn't
Okay,
hear the question.
let's listen again.
Ano Lerton.
And can you tell me where you're from?
From Brussels in Belgium.
May I see your identification, please?
He's asking for her identification.
Yes, so you show the examiner your ID, that's it. And then they say,
Thank you. That's fine.
that's fine.
Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about what you do. Do you work or are you a student?
Do you work or are you a student?
Okay, let's do this.
Well,
Just a moment. I think you're lagging. I can't hear you. Cannot hear you right now.
I am working. I am actually a student from the high school, elementary school, mm, like full time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard the answer now. Can you hear me?
Uh,
Something's wrong with the connection. I don't think it's working well. Can't hear you. All right. Is it getting better
oh,
now?
the internet was lagging.
All right, better now. Yeah. So one more time. Do you work or are you a student?
Well, I am not working at the moment. I am actually a student from the alpha school. Yes.
From what?
Um, Alpha School. That is my school name.
From Alpha School. Uh, okay, so let me see, just a moment. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't say names in this case. Doesn't really make sense because the examiner doesn't know any Alpha schools and just not something you'd normally say. Is it a high school? Is it a private high school or something?
A
So
private high school.
So that's a great thing to talk about. I don't think you need to say things like, well, I'm not actually working right now, but that's fine. That was natural, so I like that. But you could directly jump into this topic of your school. So I'm actually not like the majority of the people here. I study in a private school, a private high school, this grade or something. You can mention your grade, and you can tell me like one more thing about your school in this sentence, in this response. Like, okay, so this is the school. And like, what can you tell me about it? Like, for example, well, its achievements, how big it is, like how old it is, how impressive it is. Like, what's impressive about it? Like, if you had to summarize why the school is special in one sentence, what would you say?
It's not that special. It's
Okay, then,
not that
yeah.
different from the other private schools in Hanoi.
Okay, great. So that's a perfect thing to say as well. All right, so do you work? Are you a student?
Well, I am not working at the moment, but I am a high school student in a private school, whereas it is not that much different from other private schools in Hanoi.
Well, that's a good answer. Just jump straight into the I'm a student there and there, right? I'm not working at the moment. That's well, okay, yeah. Then and you can say it's I don't think there's anything too special about it. You can actually say that, right? So it's pretty much like all the other schools in Hanoi. It's quite a regular private school. Okay, yeah. Next, let's move on.
I'm a student.
What do you study?
I've just finished high school and I want to study communication.
That was her answer. As you can see, a little bit less fluent than yours, but yeah, it's fine. She doesn't need more than a 5 or something, you know. What was the second question there?
What do you study?
Let's do this.
Oh, well, as a regular student in Vietnam, I don't have a major yet. I study all the primary subjects that they have in school, the
In
basic
this,
ones.
yeah, in the school curriculum, you can say. Yeah, the curriculum is a
Mhm.
good word here to use. And yeah, that's great. I like your answer. You can, yeah, you don't really need to change anything there. So moving on.
Why did you choose this subject?
So in this case, mm, they will ask you like, do you have a favorite subject before this question?
Well, I well, I really don't. Well, I really like studying history in school, mostly because the teacher is very nice and she is understanding of students.
That's a
Um,
good response. Yeah, well done. Sounds natural. You provided some reasoning. Good job. You can also, like, if you want to aim higher, like Band 9 answers, include a general comment. So, well, a nice teacher, that's kind of a general comment, but we can go beyond that. You can say, something like about your peers, like the other classmates. How do they appreciate the same subject? You could say, so yeah, I like this subject because of this and this, But the majority of the people in Vietnam don't actually enjoy history that much. So I find my interest to be quite unique. Yeah, that's a general comment that brings your answer to band 9 immediately, because that is like a part three comment in part 1. Yeah.
Hmm.
But you don't have to go that far. Like, again, if you're not aiming to get something super high, but still, like, that's the structure. You answer the question directly, part 1, and then, and if you have time and if they don't interrupt you, and if you can think of something nice, something interesting, you add like a general comment, like a bird's eye view of the situation. Yeah. Like, for example, what's your favorite transport? I like cars. Yeah, because they are comfortable. That's a band, like, well, it's hard to say which band because part 1 is a warm up. But for example, it's band 7, band 6, maybe. Yeah. And if you add, like, well, I like cars, they're comfortable, and cars actually in Vietnam aren't that common at this point because of this and this, right? See? So that comment, again, it elevates your part 1 answer to something really good. Got it? Yeah?
Got it.
So, what questions do you have so far about anything? Like, something must be there. Some.
Hmm. Mm, well, well, I know that in task in part 2 they appreciate the fluency, and in part 3 the logical thinking, right? So what do they want most in part 1 questions?
Well, I don't know where you heard that.
Because
What was it?
I
Logical
heard
thing?
that
They
only
appreciate logical thinking only in part 3, you mean? Why only part 3? Logical thinking is good in every part of IELTS, including speaking and writing.
oh,
I mean, like, logical thinking is just, it's the way you speak. That's cohesion. Like, understand, like,
mm,
it's always there. Part 1, part 2, part 3, they are all the same, like, in terms of the criteria that are used. They're the same for all parts. But,
mm,
well, like in part 2, you said fluency. Fluency is everywhere. It's the same. Like, why would it be different in part 2? You're just given more time to speak. It's called long term. But that's all. That's all. The only thing is in part 3, you don't talk about
yourself.
yourself. That's all. In part 2 and 1, you usually talk about yourself.
Okay.
And part 1 is usually treated as a
Warm
warm
up.
up. Yeah, you know that. So it's mostly so you can get used to the accent of the examiner. You can get your bearings in the environment. You can get used to what's
Mm,
going on. Calm down. Yeah, that's the point.
mm,
And then in part 2 is your time to shine. Yeah.
mm. Um, my like speaking teacher at school told us that we should use more cohesive device in part 1 because we may or may not forget to use those in part 2 and 3 for getting for us we getting lost in the story. So, do you think that is useful?
That is what?
That is true.
True. Well, that's why I've given you the structure for part 2. If you follow that structure, you will have a lot of cohesive devices within it. Like
Mm,
transitions between, like, paragraphs. You have to connect paragraphs, and that's cohesive devices for you. You don't just jump from one to another. You introduce them, like, and about this, about that. Let me tell you about this, and why did I do that? Right? Those things are important. And in terms of, like, sentences, not just paragraphs, right? So within sentences, just make them longer. Avoid shorter sentences. As long as you, like, keep going, keep stretching that one sentence, you will have to use cohesive devices. So just keep them
mm,
longer. There's no trick to that. Just, well, speak naturally, follow the structure in part 2. And in part 1, well, yeah, I mean, you could try to use something beyond, like, because this, because that, this, because that, this, because that. That's, everyone says that, right? So you can avoid that and try something new. Honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. Just be yourself and try for a natural answer most of the time, because so far you've been doing well. So yeah, don't worry. Like thinking about adding cohesive devices to part one, that's too much. Like overthinking in this case, not gonna really help probably during the test because it's gonna be too many distractions.
I think it's a quite large subject, really interesting, so I want to study.
Okay, so that was a mediocre answer, obviously, and the question was like, why is that your favorite subject? That wouldn't happen in your case because you've already said that, obviously. Yeah, and that's good.
What do you hope to do when you finish your studies?
I,
What was the
Mm,
question?
what do you hope to do when you finish your studies?
Very well.
So, so in my case, it is finishing and graduating from high school. So I aim to get in a decent colleague, and I am having my own goal to myself. So I really wish to achieve that.
Okay.
Mm,
Let's try one more time. What do you hope to do when you finish your studies?
studies, like as in graduating from high school.
Good
Mm,
question. Remember, the examiner is doing their job, and their job is to be 100% clear. And if you don't understand something, you immediately ask them, could you repeat? Could you explain? Could you rephrase? Could you give examples? Or could you like explain a specific word, define a word? Yeah, you could ask so many things without like no chance at lowering your score. Like, I mean, it's not going to affect your score at all. Just
mm.
ask them. Yeah.
So, like this finish studies here me equal to graduating from high school?
A very good question. Always do that. Very, very well done. Yes, of course, that means your current studies, like that you have been pursuing for a while now. And it also means, depending on what you want to talk about, the end of your college studies as well. By the way, not colleague, college. Yeah, you're talking about college?
College?
Yeah. We
Yes.
have two words. Um, this word, yeah, and this word. You see that?
Yes.
Can you read both of them?
Colleague, colleagues, and college.
Good. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well done. Right. So, really, studies is mostly how you understand it. Like, could be current studies. Like, studies in general means, well, you know what. And if you plan to continue them, well, then by the end of that too. But if you don't plan to continue them, then now, it depends on you, really. That's what I'm explaining to you. The examiner is not going to say that. They're just going to say, well, yeah, it depends on you, maybe, or something like that. So, yeah, if you plan to continue, means after that. So, what do you hope to do? What do you hope to do when you finish your studies?
So in my case, as a high school student, after graduating, I would aim for a decent colleague that um, I want to go there and have another um, period of period of time studying like stuff after this.
No, no, don't criticize yourself. Your English is good. Number one rule, well, all right, the second rule mostly of IELTS speaking is just be very confident. Number one rule is just don't be silent. Number two is just be confident in your own skills. Like before you enter the room, before you open the door or whatever, just tell yourself, I have to pretend to be confident for 15 minutes. Just pretend. Doesn't matter if you're actually confident. That's what actors do, right? Before they film all those cool scenes in movies, they might not actually be that confident, but they have to pretend. So that's what you do. I have taken the test myself. I'm not sure if I've told you this, but that's what I told myself. I'm like also anxious. I was anxious. It was like what 5 years ago now. I was pretty anxious before I entered, and I was like, damn, I gotta mind my intonation, like pronunciation. I was like drilling tongue twisters before entering the room, and I just said, oh, all right, whatever. Like I'm confident just for this time being, and gotta nail this, you know. So believe in yourself. Part of the test. Hmm. How do we build confidence? You try to study hard at home. Speak in front of the mirror. Have you done this?
Mm.
Have you done speaking in front of the mirror?
No, I haven't.
You can try that. Have you done selfie recordings while answering questions? Maybe not. You could try that. Talking to your maybe mom, you can ask her to just sit there and listen to your answer, even if she doesn't understand any English. It doesn't matter. Just so that there's another person listening, yeah? And those things, so you try to mimic the environment at home or in your environment like as much as possible. The environment of the exam, mimic it in your personal environment when studying. The closer it is to the exam, the better you'll perform during the test. That's what has helped most of the students that I teach the most. Like, you can even share with me any of your progress, any of the things you do. Just tell me. I'm interested in that. You can also find friends. Do you have any friends who speak English in your classmates?
Yes,
Practice
a bunch of them.
part three questions. Practice with them. Like set a camera that can like record both of you speaking, and choose a part three question and just talk about it. Like, don't just like make one person answer and the other listen, but actually discuss it, right? What do you think about this, right? And record yourself. You can share it with me or just for yourself, like review it later, for example.
Mm.
These things build confidence. If you don't do them, if you just answer, like you record the recordings for me, that's great, but not the highest level of what you could do, right? You could go beyond and do that. So, you said decent what?
Decent college.
College, right? So I'm understanding that correctly. You mean university? Yeah?
Yeah,
So not
maybe.
good, not colleague, yeah? College.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And having my own goal, you said, right? The first time. So just pointing it out that it's not the best way to phrase it, right? So I plan to continue my education, become an undergraduate student. Usually we say that, but I mean, you don't have to, it's fine. And what was it? And I have some goals in mind. I have a specific idea in mind. You don't have to share it, but you could say a specific idea. Moving on, yeah?
I want to become an event manager in Brussels.
Why?
I like to organize events, so I think it's a good job for me.
So that girl, she was an actual like candidate. She was answering for her some sort of like I don't know studies there, uh, and she's like I think 15 or 16 or something like that. So this is an official test that was recorded about like 2 years ago, I think, or 1.5 years ago. Not that. It's just pretty modern, like very new compared to the majority of things you find online.
Let's talk about numbers. What kinds of numbers do you have to remember in your daily life?
What did you hear?
Okay, I don't expect those kind of questions. What kind of numbers do you have to memorize in your daily life?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, if I had this question, I would be stunned. Mm.
What kind of numbers do you have to remember? Do you expect to remember?
Numbers?
Hmm? Numbers, yes. You can always ask clarification questions like, what do you mean? That's a good question. You can ask me, what do you mean? Or
Mm.
do you mean this? Or do you mean phone numbers? And I would say, yes, of course, something like that. Anything, like any numbers.
Well, what do you mean by numbers? Can you provide some examples?
Well, let's say phone numbers, addresses, maybe numbers in your emails or anything like that.
Well, as for it, I would say that I have to memorize some phone numbers of my relatives in case of emergency. Well, my mother actually kind of forced me to memorize those because she is worried about my own safety. And now I do have the awareness to memorize them too because I'm also afraid of myself getting in danger.
Hmm. Okay, very good answer. It's a very developed, very well developed answer. A bit too much even for part one, so that's good. If they stop you, that's good. What else? Afraid of myself getting in danger.
Mm,
Afraid
maybe
of
that is not that necessary.
afraid to get in danger. Yeah, afraid of
Okay.
myself getting in danger. Hmm. That's an interesting way to put it. Okay, so we have relatives. Yep,
Mm.
pronunciation.
Relatives.
Good. Not like relatives or anything like that. Yeah, relatives. And in case of
Emergency.
emergency,
E- Emergency.
so then
Emergence.
in case of an emergency. Yeah?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Very good answer. Perfect. Not much to add. Let's see what the candidate did.
I usually remember my relatives' phone numbers, such as my parents or my sisters or my home phone numbers, and I I know it since I'm a little girl, so it's quite easy for me.
Do you find
She
it
probably is
easy to
lying.
remember numbers?
Sorry, what did you say?
No, no, nothing.
Do you find it easy to remember numbers?
Oh, wow. Personally, numbers are just not my thing. My thing because well, I work better with images and pictures rather than numbers. I find them really mm, pure blend and hard and too tough to memorize them. So
Yep, that's great.
it's not
Yeah.
something I.
Not my favorite activity to do to like sit down and try to etch all of those numbers in
Well,
my brain, right? Like the ones that are belong to someone, some company or some school or something. All those numbers are so pesky hard to remember these days. Yeah.
Yes, as I said, I find it easy because it hasn't changed for years, so it's easy for me to remember numbers, phone numbers, or yeah.
Was maths one of your favourite subjects at school?
well, as I have mentioned before, I work better with images, not numbers. And ever since I was um, younger kid, I was struggling always every day with mathematics, and it would always hold me my grades.
It would you disappeared there for a moment. It would what?
It would pull all of my grades down.
Okay, nice. Next. Very good.
No, not really, because I have always struggled with math and I was diagnosed with the dyscalculia when I was a child. So it was really hard and it's still abstract and difficult for me nowadays.
Is it important to be good at dealing with numbers in your studies?
Hello? You there?
Mm,
Yeah, something's wrong with the connection again, yeah? Unfortunate. Can you hear me well right now?
yes, yes, I can.
Did you hear the question from the video? Okay, let's listen again.
No.
Yeah, no problem.
It was really hard and it's still abstract and difficult for me nowadays.
Is it important to be good at dealing with numbers in your studies?
Hmm. Well, I think that is quite an interesting question because math in Vietnam is considered one of the most prominent subject in school, high school in particular. And since I am not a person with a well, I don't I don't just don't really do well with math. It really mm, it is really hard for me to catch up in school when people expect to be people to be good at math. People expect me to be good at math.
Very good. Yeah, that's a good answer. Well done. Um, so it's one of the most prominent
Subject?
subjects. Yes, many, plural. Yeah, all right. Good. Moving on.
I think in communication it's not really important, no.
Why not?
Because we don't use a lot of numbers or statistic or stuff like that. So I think it's not interesting and for me and it doesn't matter really.
Let's talk about cycling. When did you learn to ride a bike?
Hmm. Well, I remember being a really fast learner when it comes to cycling. I was one of the soonest to be able to ride a bike among my friends. I remember it was when I was 7. I could able to ride a two wheels bike.
All right, very nice. One of the soonest to be able to ride. One of the soonest. Yeah,
Earliest,
one of
earliest.
the earliest. Yeah. Okay, and I could be able to.
I was able
Yeah,
to.
well done. I was able to.
I maybe when I was about 6 or 8 years old. Yes.
Is riding a bike popular in your country?
Mm, yeah, it is. Yes, it is. Due to some past events, Vietnam has a lot of um, cyclers, bicycle riders, because it is most first of all very convenient in Vietnam streets, and second of all, it's just cheap in every way.
Okay, you're very, very good. More than enough. Yeah, you always say more than enough, just so you know, and it's good. Like, I mean, you don't have to say less. You don't have to say more. Just keep it like this. It's fine. And if the examiner doesn't like it, they will stop you, and it's not a problem. Now, what was it? a cyclist, right? A person who rides a bike.
Cyclist.
But it's an interesting thing you paraphrased it because you actually get extra points in IELTS for forgetting a word and being able to say it in other words. So
Oh,
that's something you get extra points for. So well done. Yeah, well, like a cycler is not a term, but then you said, right, bicycle riders, correct? So no problem there.
Well, it depends because there are two parts in Belgium. The in the north is more popular and common because I think it's less hilly than in the south. So it's quite for the Flemish people. It's quite um, a part of their culture. So yeah, it's more popular in the north than in the south of the country.
How easy is it to cycle around the town or city where you live?
hmm. Not not too easy, I would say. Well, in the past, maybe like 10 years ago, it would be probably the most common vehicle to be appear on the street. But nowadays, just when the street is just getting crowded, it is really hard for bicycles to get down the street to travel around.
Okay, very good. Very good answer. A few minor things, like when I point something out, doesn't mean it's like awful. It's just something I hear, and I would like to improve on. You said to be a peer on the street.
Yes.
So bikes and to be a peer on the street. How can you like rephrase that into one sentence again?
Bikes riding on the street.
Mm-hmm. A peer.
Mm-hmm.
So these, well, for example, these days, bikes appear on the streets, on city streets every day or something. Yeah, you could say it like that. Yeah. To be a peer, that's the problem. To be a peer, just appear. They appear, or yeah, they are. Um, Actually, yeah, common vehicle. I just want to look up, like, are bicycles vehicles actually? I think yes, most likely yes. Most aspects fall zeros. So yeah, it's a vehicle. All right, that's good. Um, and you said when the streets get
Um, Getting crowded, more
crowd
crowded.
more crowded, yes, yes, not crowder. We
Mm.
can't say crowder. Uh, so these days, streets have been getting crowded and more crowded, and so what's your point? The point is like it's easier, better to use bikes or less, like not as good.
Less easier.
Hmm. Harder to yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Well, I think, as I said, it's easier in the north because they have a lot of facilities like bike paths and stuff like that. But in the south, it's less common, and in the capital city, the traffic is really busy, and so it's more difficult. Yes.
Would you like to go on a cycling holiday in the future?
Mm. Cycling holiday. I've never heard of that phrase before. Hmm. Cycling
Well,
holiday.
you can always
Uh,
ask, like, you're supposed to ask, right? So you're like
um.
trying to make me answer without asking me a question, which is not good for you.
Oh.
So you should just ask, all right, so, oh, cycling holiday? What do you mean by that? That's it. And obviously, here it's just well, a holiday, you know what a holiday is? Holiday to China, holiday to Da Nang, or something like that. Well, cycling holiday, like car holiday means you go on a holiday on a bicycle. That's it.
Oh.
You
Okay.
you thought maybe like a festival. You confuse holiday
Yeah.
with a festival. Holiday means a vacation
Yes.
too,
Like
right? So vacation, yeah, like break.
Go on holiday using bikes. Wow, that is a very new idea. I, I heard now that I have heard of it, I think that I would probably want to try to go on a holiday using bikes because it seems to be a very fun activity to do.
Great, that's a good answer for part one. Nothing wrong. So, yeah. Mm, now that I'm thinking about it, you could say like now that I've heard of it is good too. You could say, or now that I'm thinking about it, that sounds interesting. Yeah, that sounds peculiar, like a peculiar activity for me.
Why not? Yes. I think it's an exciting way to discover landscapes and to admire nature. So, yeah, why not?
Now, I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did you get everything he said?
Yeah,
It's pretty easy. Overall.
Here's some paper and a pencil for making notes. And here's your topic. Please don't write anything on the booklet.
The booklet is the thing they give you, like the topic card. Okay, let's do this together, right? So do you have a piece of paper with a pencil?
I don't. Can I type on the
Yeah,
laptop?
that's fine. It's just in case you wanted to do that. So you'll get a topic, and I'll time it here as well. About yeah, 1 minute. Actually, you could tell me, like, do you want to listen to her answer first, or you want to try your own first?
I want to try my own
Try.
first.
Okay, let's try your. Okay. Right, let's see the topic. So I'll have the timer here for 60 seconds so you can prepare. The goal here is to answer all of the sub questions one by one. Make sure you have like an answer ready for each of them because you're supposed to, well, ideally separate your answer into paragraphs. And for keywords, don't write sentences. Don't even write phrases. Ideally, just one or two keywords per question. And the keywords should be advanced. If you can't think of an advanced keyword by the end of like about 15 seconds for each question, then just write something basic then. At least a simple answer is better than none. Yeah? But ideally, right, the note-taking strategy is to, note-making strategy in this case, is to think of an advanced word related to each question. Something like, well, like instead of interesting, peculiar or something like that. Yeah, just write it down there, and that counts as sort of like answering it. So, let's see.
Are we
I,
still in like part one?
What
Are
again?
we still in part one?
No, he said that. Like, I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it. And look, it says here, it shows here part
So
two.
it's part two?
Yeah. So what was it? As you can see, from the very start, it took about 4 minutes to finish part one. In some cases, it might be even shorter. They might even ask you less questions than here. But yeah, like what you do, math, no, numbers, and cycling. Here you had something similar is going to be in your test. You might have just two topics instead of three. Uh, Depends on the examiner. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to describe something you enjoyed making by hand when you were a child.
Okay, here. The time is up. Can you please begin? Don't worry if I stop you.
Okay. So as a I enjoyed doing a lot of stuff on my own. But one thing that I remember particularly and most impressive is the simple paper boat. And it was so popular back then that most everyone made it. But I remember that I made it out of pure boredom while I was waiting for my mom at her work. And of course, at her office, there was plenty of paper. So I just kind of grabbed one and mm, fold into a simple paper boat. And of course, it was so simple because the instruction is everywhere and everyone was making paper boats back then. But the reason why that I do really like making these boats is because it is really creative. I could make it in whichever way I want, and also very convenient to make. Like the materials are simple, not at all complex, and you can make one at anywhere, like literal everywhere. Is it too short?
Okay, no, that's fine. Well, you still have had about 30 seconds there. Um, let's um,
Um,
let's listen to her answer, and yeah.
All right? Remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Yes. When I was a child, I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother and my grandparents, with my cousin, and we really like to cook pain perdu, which is a um, famous breakfast in Belgium and in France. It's made of milk, bread, and eggs. And I also like cooking brownie. And during my free time, I really like cooking, and I think that is thanks to my grandmother because she's a really good cooker. So I, I when I we had family parties, I like to prepare stuffs with my grandmother and to help her to cook for cooking. And so I think I'm quite good at it, but nowadays it's difficult to have free time to try new recipes or something like that. So I I try to cook and I enjoy it. Yes. Um, so another thing I really like to cook is brownie, and so it's also a recipe from my grandmother, and I also like cooking a lot with chocolate because I'm from Belgium and I think it's part of our culture. So I also like cooking like Nutella, but homemade, and I think with eggs, sugar, and chocolate, of course.
Did you often make things when you were a child?
So that's the point here. They ask you one follow-up question in part two, usually. And what was the question?
do you make a lot of things when are you were a child?
Something like that. Let's listen again one more time.
Of course.
Did you often make things when you were a child?
Oh, did you often make things when you were a child? Mm. Um, what are the things here, like in cooking or handmade stuff?
They're just any handmade stuff, like your thing.
Anything. Okay, so I think that as a kid, I was very involved with my mom cooking, with my mom's cooking. I usually just stood there and wait for any task, from the simplest one to of whisking an egg or to pour in some milk. So I believe that I was a really active child.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Usually, the follow-up question is the only question in IELTS that you don't really need to expand much. Just a short answer
Oh.
is good enough. But again, it's not your not part of your responsibilities to keep it short. It's the examiner's responsibility. So if they are done, they'll tell you you can never go wrong by speaking more. Yeah, they'll just stop you usually soon.
Hmm.
Because I pretty much never stop you because I just want you to develop your answers fully. But during the real test, you should be ready to get stopped all the time, right, in the middle of your sentence. And it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It just means that the examiner knows the score, the band they want to give you already.
Mhm.
Yes, as I said, I enjoyed cooking, so yeah, I like bake cakes and brownies and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's the end of part one and part two. I assume we're going to finish our lesson now. Yeah?
Yeah. Can I ask questions?
Yes, of course.
So in the additional question after part two, they don't count they don't time us, right?
Yeah, no, that's like after you're done, like after the 2 minutes, you get another question. Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, most of the time you get a question like that. Something general related to the topic, like what about your friends? Do they like that too? Or what about you when you were
Mm-hmm.
younger and stuff like that? Yeah.
And does the answer of the additional question have to relate to the main answer?
No, just answer it as a separate question. That's it. Like basically another part one. Honestly, I treat part two as a set of part one questions. You just get those four questions on the card, and they are all pretty much part one questions. And you until part three, you're all talking about yourself. And it's if you treat it like that, it becomes easier, I think. Yeah. Just imagine that in part two, instead of asking you directly four questions, the examiner gives you a card with the questions on the card and also wants you to answer them, but without asking you every question, right? That's it. And it's pretty much part one, two, just in a long turn. Yeah, that's what they call it. In regards to your answer, at the start there was a connection issue, so I couldn't hear the very first part. Could you remind me of that? What did you say at the very beginning?
Beginning of the
Your answer, yeah.
the main one.
Yeah, part two.
Um, I say that the one thing that I really enjoyed making is a simple paper boat.
Okay, yeah. I
Like
enjoyed making is it?
everyone was making, uh,
Yeah, you could say used to
it
be
was a
has
trend.
it was a trend. Yeah, particularly and most impressive is mhm, as most was so popular back then. Back then everyone made it, but I remember that I made it out of pure boredom while I was waiting for my mom from work, and of course, as a few issues with past tense, like grab, wait, and fold. You said I folded, I folded it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, folded it.
Mm-hmm.
Endings important in part two. Not much else to say. Apart from that, it seemed quite well structured and well said. A little bit on the short side, but 1 minute 30 seconds is still it's okay. It's just that at home when you practice, try to keep it 2 minutes because it's harder to get there, and that's what we need to do. Make sure homework is challenging. The more you challenge yourself now, the easier it becomes later. Okay, you've got more than enough homework, right? You've got again the speaking, the writing, maybe even listening and reading if you're up for that. And well, feel free to ask me anything now and or later.
It's okay. Thank you.
When shall we meet next? Do you still want to meet tomorrow additionally?
No, I'm busy tomorrow and for the weekend. So maybe next week. Is Tuesday fine?
Yeah, so Tuesday would be great at same time as today, 7:30. What do you think?